Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.
Hello and welcome to Werewolf the Podcast. This is episode 130. We are back in Viking times where Thorstein and Fenrir, the werewolf couple, are fighting a troll. It's quite exciting, isn't it? Could you please like this, share it, download it, and do all those wonderful things? Tell a friend, a special friend. You know, we've all got them. If you go down to the description, you can link up with all the Facebook groups and Instagram and X and whatever it's called and all that kind of stuff. You just need to go down to that description thing down there and click on the links, and you can then be part of the crew, as it were, because the Facebook group is full of wonderful individuals. Anyway, with no more ado, with no more to say, let's start this thing in a cool and Viking way. Drit. Sorry, with what's really going on with all the nonsense at the moment, I forgot that you don't speak Norse. What would it be? Oh, that's it. Yeah. Shit. Fenrir and I, whilst focusing on not falling over, combined to become the wolf as we ran. For those who do not know, Fenrir is my wolf soul. He is the soul of a wolf from a few hundred years ago who has adopted me as my mentor and best friend. He makes the whole werewolf and the wolf-shaped things possible. When we change to wolf, there is that difficult moment when you suddenly go from 2 legs to 4, where, however graceful the change, there's a chance you'll get mixed up with the leg number and trip yourself up. It can be kind of embarrassing at times. It was difficult to time, as we were running really, as fast as fuck from the giant creature called Argonastyle who was chasing us. Argonastyle was a troll that I had been asked to, I suppose the word would be de-troll. It was supposed to be a simple plan, but if you listen to the last episode, things had gone, pretty much wrong, so I hope you know why it was taking all my concentration to do so many difficult things at once. Combined for the need for the really fast running and the shape-shifting was the need to jink and dodge through trees and underbrush. I would have thought I could have easily outrun the giant thing, but it ran straight through anything in its way, while I kind of had to dodge through the woodland landscape. Trees behind me were being smashed into kindling, and birds were whirring from the bushes as the landslide run that was the troll in full fatal and fast locomotion rumbled on. The natural world was being brutalised as the trolls simply, ignored it. Argonastyle had only one thing in mind, and that thing was grabbing me. To add to the multiple goings-on in the moment and the danger, as the giant ran, it grabbed anything that came to its hand, to the left and right, and then fucking threw him at me. Trees, rocks, and I think at one point a huge confused-looking stag smashed into the ground near me, thus making my zigzagging run much more important to do. But as a consequence of the jinking about, I was making headway much slower than my wolf form would usually allow me. Now, you might remember that I've mentioned the idea of the Drenga, do you? The notion that we should take any fight offered, and if so, we just die bravely. Dying bravely brings its rewards. Having said that, my running away was not about me surviving. I know that it sounds a bit weird that there would be a secondary reason for running away. I had run to take the big bastard from where we'd met him. I had to be sure that my friends were still alive and following us. They would be useless, dead. 2 of them already were, and or was it 3? And the troll was focused on me, so keeping his attention should mean they were still alive enough to help me. I now evaluated that I had massively underestimated the giant. I was not sure I could deal with the big boy myself. Those guys better be ready to strike the giant from behind, otherwise I was pretty likely to end up as a smudge at some point, and the recovery from being a werewolf smudge was it was a long and miserable one. So what I'm hoping you take from this is that you understand there was a lot of stuff going on, and loads of stuff going on in my head as I ran. A lot of things going on. Hopefully, then you understand why I'd not noticed the troll, which was, well, they're classically known as to be thick as fuck, aren't they? Well, that he had cornered me in a rocky gap. Yeah, I know. I really should not have let that happen. Right, but I was thinking about the way from and not where to, so he trapped me. Drit. Sorry. Shit. The walls of the narrow valley pit were vertical and sheer, and it was a small, sculpted gap. It's strange how in these moments you notice the little details of them. The floor of the site was compacted and mud and strewn with bones and rotting flesh. This was the troll's killing site. He obviously used this place to corner things he could not normally catch before eating them. I had been, a proper dumb fuck. In this situation, the wolf was a bit of a shitty shape to be, so Fenrir suggested it might be a good time to change into the werewolf. He always had the best ideas. I gratefully accepted, and we ran to the back wall in order to get ready to climb our way out of there. It'll be easy. My strength and agility are much greater when in the werewolf form. I knew I would quickly fly up any rock wall in the form of the wolfman. So, I was a bit surprised when I got 10 feet up the wall with a leap and then scrabbled with claws to gain some purchase. Normally the claws of the paws and the feet would find anything to grip, any tiny space, crack or rock nub. There was none. The wall was as smooth as silk. No gaps, no grips. It was as though the walls had been, polished into this state for a reason. Again, in the moment, noticing the very small details. The walls had been polished by the troll using 4 or 5 what looked like pebble-shaped boulders in the corner. For Thor's sake. Trolls, I guess they're not as thick as we think they are. This one knew exactly what he was doing. I scrabbled and scrabbled, such a good word, scrabbled, pathetically grasping at anything. It didn't help. There was nothing. I stopped the stupid attempt and slowly slid down the wall with the final acceptance that I was not going to be going upwards. For Thor's sake. The war god had a good sense of humour and tried his best to test me. I smiled as I thought about, all the gods sat around viewing this little bit of excitement and, probably laughing. What a bunch of bastards. Everything settled now in my head as I tried to control my breathing and placed my wolf-headed forehead on the wall in front of me, gently tapping that forehead on the wall whilst talking to myself. Stupid. I knew I was caught. I knew there was only one way out of here, and I could hear the sound of the monster's approach as he had funneled me into the trap. He was going to close the door to the escape simply by being the fucking door. I turned. Yep, and there it was, standing at the opening. Its body bridged the gap. What a body. Oof. There was no room to get past it on either side. Its just vast, horrific form was there. It blocked the way wholly, and it roared and raged at me. I was properly fucked. So staring at it, I reacted in my usual way when thrilled at the fact that I was near the point of death. It was a proper Mexican... I don't know if I can say this. Can I say this? Well, it's a proper Mexican standoff. I think I can say that because I wrote this in the 9th century, and that was before racism, wasn't it? Is Mexican standoff racism? I'm not sure. If it is, I apologise. I don't see it as that. I just see it as like from the films when you get the cowboys, you know. Anyway, I stood at one end of the small valley. He stood at the other end. He was incredible. He was nature in physical form in this moment of ultra focus. I could see the whole of him. He was a miracle, a mix of organic and inorganic material in a walking form. His head was huge, much bigger in comparison to the size of his torso, and completely misshapen. When people say he had a head like a potato, well, in this case, it was. It sat like a boulder on the shoulders of the creature. There was no apparent neck, just a head set on the top of the body. Everything was out of kilter and wrong on that face. He had more than the usual number of bits on that face. He had 3 ears on the left side of his head. They ranged in size and form, a human-like ear mixed with other animals' ears that I didn't recognise. On the other was one ear, but it was like a giant ear of a cow. It went along with the bull's horn and the ram's horn that were just stuck on the same side for some random reason. He had one large human-like eye on the left. It was far too big for the sake of human proportions, and it was black in colour. No coloured iris, just looked like a pupil. Across from a somewhat canine twisted nose were a group of eyes, all held in the orbit that would have held a great big eye. I would go on with this description, but you can use your imagination now as I've implied the mixed up thing that this troll thing was. My posture in response to the situation was hunched, and I was prepared for war. I knew I would have to be ready to fight this thing. Did I have a chance? I wasn't sure. Well, probably not. Sergio Leone would have been proud of the tension built. It was a shame that musical boxes or watches had not been invented yet, but a cello build using the circle of fifths would be a good second at this point. Were cellos about at this point? Probably not. Maybe I should do some research for historical accuracy. Oh well, historical accuracy will have to take a back step. Let's use fucking cellos. As you can imagine, the most unexpected response in this scenario rose to the surface. It often does. I found it funny. It was so stupid that I'd let myself get into this situation. I would have to fight this fight on Argonastyle's terms, which would probably make it much more complicated and difficult. It should have been, really. So as the werewolf, I started to laugh. The troll in response roared again at me. This just brought me into, more fits of giggles. I was like the child in front of the teacher who'd been told not to laugh. And now, even though I wanted to stop that laughter, I couldn't contain the joy. The raging Argonastyle was stunned into silence. His fucked up face looked, quite quizzical, and his demeanour and posture fell as he was confused by the way in which I was responding to him. I mean, I'm sure it's not how most things would react to a 50-foot tall slab of malformed granite. Fenrir and I were, we would say in bits, broken up with laughter in my head. We were both laughing so hard at our stupidity. The laughter had got to a point where it was now physically hurting. I thought I was going to wee. I had to start holding my belly. I was laughing too hard. The weird thing was, I didn't really understand what I was laughing about. Argonastyle, the troll, raised himself again and swelled to his full height. He took in the greatest of breaths and let out the most horrendous noise that I had ever heard. At 100 yards away from him, I not only got the full bellow of his range, but got the blast of the outbreath. The roaring wind he created was filled with the stench of rotten fish and, worse, saliva, spit and bits of fish. I was splattered with them. I stopped laughing instantly, and froze in disgust looking at myself. With my massively boosted sense of smell, I was almost sick on the spot. I retched and heaved, but held down most of my most recent meal. Settling and calming down, I waited for the troll's growling howl to stop. He eventually ran out of air and looked at me carefully for my response. He probably wanted to see me quail in fear, to see me get down on my knees and beg forgiveness or some bollocks like that. I was silent. I tried to look calm and tried to show some kind of, self-control over myself. I really tried, I did, and then the fucking werewolf soul fen in my head said, "If that thing's farts, we're fucking dead." Bastard! I just got control of myself. And then, boom, I was again curled up, actually on my knees, laughing. I was waving my arm at the troll as though trying to sort of apologise for my behaviour. I genuinely did feel bad for him. It must be difficult for such a terrifying creature to be laughed at. As I did laugh, the troll looked even more confused. Then he started making a strange noise himself. I had no idea what the noise meant, but let us classify it as kind of weird. He brought a giant hand to his mouth and covered it as though embarrassed at what had just happened, and then started to... Yeah, he did, yeah. He began to laugh. I pointed at him as he laughed, apologising again with my hands. I was completely incapable of speech. Well, I'm a kind of werewolf. How could I speak? He waved back dismissively, acting out of embarrassment, and laughed even louder. As his laugh settled, I rose from my kneeling position and overemphasised trying to wipe the mess off my fur. As I did it, I pretended I was disgusted. I acted this out, as if, you would do to make a young child laugh at my silly actions. The troll now lost his shit. Ho, 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 was given out to the closing night air. Honestly, if you've heard Jabba the Hutt laugh in Return of the Jedi, you've listened to the laugh of a troll. Well, kind of. Except this laugh had sort of bricks in it, not slimy slugginess. Big, heavy, clacky bricks. This was a delightful moment between us. The chemicals of fear that had been released into our... The trolls have blood? I wasn't sure. Well, the anger and the wanting to do violence left us and gave us a fantastic buzz as we settled. It was like 4 drinks in with a good friend would be. That would be a great way to describe the feeling that we shared between us now. The 2 remaining warriors from my little gang came racing into the little valley trap, shouting. They were out of breath and stressed to the max and ran at the troll, who was now sitting on his arse and laughing. Thor and Curl were bearing spears and screaming at him. Argonastyle stopped laughing. Oh shit, and looked at them for a moment in complete puzzlement. They paused, and he paused, and silence fell over us all. Were the Vikings going to strike at the troll? The men were mesmerised entirely on the thing's face. I was also focused by its face, looking at those horrific, distorted features. The thing looked torn by anger and pain, and then Argonastyle raised his arse off the floor slightly with his hands. It looked like he was getting up. The 2 men leapt back, waving weapons at him in what they thought was a threatening manner, and then the troll farted. It went on for a while, and I have to say the gas released was partially visible as it escaped its confines. Fenrir in my head started to laugh again. He completely lost it, and as he told me that the horrid face had been the troll forcing out the fart. The 2 men looked confused for a second, and then as the green gaseous cloud slowly dissipated into the air, they started flapping their arms around and being sick. Kirill ended up on his knees being, well, what can I say, violently pukey. At this, the troll met my eyes with his, pointed at the man being sick on the floor and started to laugh. I couldn't do anything else. I just allowed the laughter to flow from me. This shared joke was the funniest thing that I could ever remember. An hour later, strangely, we were sitting on the bank of Argonastyle's fishing spot. I was back in human form, and Fenrir's wolf soul sat beside me. The three humans, me, Thor, Curl, were all just sat next to the massive troll, dangling our feet in the cool water as we talked and ate the freshly cooked salmon that Argonastyle had offered us. A warm fire was at our backs, and it felt strange but correct to be sat with this creature. He himself ate his fish raw and sucked them from between finger and thumb one at a time with such dexterity and gentleness. His enjoyment was so apparent that it led to our own appreciation of the deliciously cooked fish. As we ate, we talked about the happenings of the last couple of hours. The troll was able to speak Norse quite well. He laughed when I told him this.
Of course I can talk well. It is not Norse, it is Trollish. You speak Trollish very well, little man.
He told me. I laughed at this. Maybe when living with the gods back up there, he spoke the same language of them, which is Old Norse's root. I didn't really know. In our conversation, I explained why we'd tried to ambush him at the fishing site where he'd killed the men of the village. You know, the village that had sort of originally come to help, that had grown at the mouth of the river. I told him that those people were terrified that he would come to the village and kill them all, so they'd asked me to slay him. At this he laughed.
Men are so fearful of things they do not understand.
Again he told me. He explained that he didn't want to fight them, but that they came along much like we did and attacked him, so he only defended himself and did not kill as many as he could have. He'd let most of them run away from him.
So what are you going to do, little man? Are you going to try to kill me? Because that would be a shame. I am a formidable opponent, and even you and Fenrir together may not cope. I do not want to hurt you and your friends.
I sat and thought about this. This gigantic beast was protecting his home. That's all it was. He was just trying to live in a spot of safety and plenty.
You will not make me move on easily, I am afraid. I have been pushed from my places too often, and this place suits me best. I have a home, and the forest and the river provide me with all I need.
Again, he told me honestly. I sat and thought, if I didn't kill him, I would be thought of as a coward. The people of the village would spread the story that I was not bold or brave enough to take on the troll. This wouldn't do anything for my fame. In fact, it'd probably do the opposite. The large troll waited patiently. He seemed a little indifferent to the possible outcome of the conversation.
I will fight you if I have to, but I would rather not. Unlike you men's, trolls do not enjoy confrontation. That is why most of my kin would have rather move on and leave a place than stay when men arrive. You are nasty and dangerous creatures, I think. Prone to violence. You enjoys it. For us, it only comes with great rage and great need. I only kill to eat, not like you, for the pleasure of the fight.
Would you kill to protect your home? I asked him.
You have seen I has.
He said with a note of sadness in his voice. I laughed. Then the village has to go. Let's go tell them. Let's allow them to make the right decision and leave you be. If they don't do that, well, my story will be dark and tragic for them. My reputation will still grow. I would like to be known as Thorstein Trollfriend. Thanks for listening, you wonderful human beings and other shape-shifting organisms of, and other things, Yes, please download this. please review it. Please enjoy it. And if you want, you can sponsor us by just giving us $2 a month. You can do loads of things. Just go down to that, see that description down there. Go there and press on some of them them linky things and just follow them and see what happens. You never know, it could be magic. Anyway, as I say at this time, every time, do you know what? I love you. Bye.
Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.